Premier League action returns this weekend for Gameweek 9, and here are some of the questions sent in via Twitter. Joe asks, worth keeping hold of Pukki, or is it time to get rid? The last 4 game weeks have seen Pukki average 4.3 points per game, compared to the 9.3 points per game he managed across his first 4. His tally of 4 shots on target in the last 4 matches is significantly down from the 11 he managed in the first 4, but the number of big chances has stayed the same, and his XG is actually higher than in the opening 4 game weeks. So there is some cause for optimism going into the meeting with Bournemouth in Gameweek 9. The Cherries are yet to keep a clean sheet this season, and have allowed 7 goals across their 4 home matches, while Norwich themselves are the only side to concede more big chances than Bournemouth at home. However, there are a couple of in-form replacement options for those who have lost faith in the Norwich forward. Tammy Abraham and Callum Wilson have ticked a lot of boxes in the last 4 game weeks, each netting 4 goals and ranking first and joint second respectively for shots on target and big chances. So for any managers who don't own either of the pair, making the switch from Pukki is a move that makes a lot of sense. But if you already own those two, it could be worth sticking with the Finland international for now, unless you can afford to make the move up into a higher price bracket for Vardy or Aubameyang. And that leads us nicely onto the next question from Mahdi, who asks, Aubameyang or Vardy? 2 great options with a long run of favourable fixtures ahead for Arsenal and Leicester. Aubameyang has the edge in terms of underlying numbers. He beats Vardy on just about every stat across the last 4 game weeks. More goals, shots, on target and from inside the box, and more big chances. But Vardy has never really been a player who racks up impressive underlying numbers, and his record since Rodgers took charge of Leicester is incredible. He's returned 17 goal involvements in 18 league matches, with a tally of 14 goals and 3 assists. In the same period, Aubameyang has 13 goals and 2 assists in 17 matches, so again, there's very little to separate the pair. Ultimately, I'd say it comes down to 2 factors: what you can do with the extra funds if you go for Vardy, and which one you'd utilise more often as a captaincy option, and that will depend on who your other captain options are, and how their fixtures rotate. My FPL Strategy asks, is Raúl Jiménez worth considering as a differential pick? It's been a rocky start to the season for Wolves, with Europa League obligations seeming to take their toll early on. But the win over Man City means they're undefeated in their last 5 matches in all competitions, and they've scored an impressive total of 9 goals in the last 5 game weeks, with only Liverpool, Leicester, Chelsea and Man City faring better. Jimenez has been fairly safe from rotation so far this season, starting in every league match and playing 675 out of a possible 720 minutes. Having fallen down in price to £7.1 million, he's only 0.2 away from the price he ended last season with, after returning 13 goals and 10 assists. Wolves face just one of last season's top 6 in the next 8 game weeks, with favourable home matches against Southampton, Aston Villa, Sheffield United and West Ham. The only concern is that he actually scored a lot of his points in games against the top 6 last season, averaging 6.2 points per game against those sides, compared to 4 points per game in the remaining matches. Naim asks, Sterling, stick or twist? The Man City midfielder has been frustrating to own in the last 5 game weeks, with only 1 FPL return in that time and an average of just 3.5 points per game. That run saw the reigning champions lose to Norwich and Wolves, while Sterling was an unused sub for their win over Watford. There are some tempting alternatives, with Mane and Aubameyang perhaps the most in form amongst the premium picks. But Man City have 3 very winnable games coming up, where they'll be looking to make up some ground on Liverpool and get their season back on track. They've scored a league high total of 14 goals during home matches so far this season, and welcome both Aston Villa and Southampton to the Etihad in the next 3 game weeks. So it's difficult to get rid of Sterling before at least seeing out those matches. Sivert asks, keep Son or buy a cheaper mid and get some extra money? Despite Tottenham's recent poor form, the home fixture against Watford in Gameweek 9 still looks very favourable, and a good chance for their attacking options to get returns. However, the risk with Son is that, as we've seen in the past, Pochettino sometimes feels the need to rest him to the bench for games that follow an international break. South Korea have an away match against North Korea on Tuesday, just 4 days before Tottenham's meeting with Watford. Spurs have some potentially tricky away ties with Liverpool and Everton to come, so it may be worth targeting a replacement for Son in Game Week 10, even if you're prepared to gamble on him getting minutes against Watford. With a goal in each of his last 2 matches, James Maddison looks like an ideal replacement ahead of Leicester's kind schedule. No teammate has fired more goal attempts or attempted more assists this season. And the final question for this episode comes from FPL Trézéguet, who asks, could Firmino be a nailed-on and cheaper option than Mane and Salah? Firmino has made a promising start to the new season, with 7 FPL involvements in 8 matches, and a points tally of 48, just 7 behind Salah and 9 less than Mane. During this calendar year, the Brazilian has averaged 5.2 points per game, compared to 6.3 for Salah and 7.1 for Mane, so we could see a bigger gap open up longer term. Another important factor to consider is how each of the trio tend to fare against teams outside the top 6, since those are the kind of matches where we'll look to our Liverpool attacker for captaincy. Last season, Salah averaged 7.8 points per game against teams outside the top 6, and Mane wasn't far behind with 7.3. Firmino, however, averaged just 4.5 points per game in those matches. By contrast, he averaged 5.3 points per game against the top 6, compared to Salah's 4.1 and Mane's 4.0. So if you're looking to bring someone in now as a set and forget option, who you won't really be considering for captaincy, Firmino could be the man for the job. But if you're looking for someone to give you that go-to captain option for the easier fixtures, history would suggest that Mane or Salah are the ones to back.